Hi, my name is Rachel Hutsell. I am originally from Houston, Texas, but I've spent time in New York City with New York City Ballet and in Santa Barbara with State Street Ballet, and I currently live in Los Angeles just as a freelance dancer and choreographer, and I am choreographing for the Bios Festival this year on some of the most beautiful dancers I've ever seen. So when I was conceptualizing Christine's story and looking at turning very literal story into dance, which usually if it's neoclassical kind of sits in the abstract, what I did is I broke down the elements of her story. So we had some tragedy, we had some hope, we had some other hardship and some struggle, and we eventually have community and celebration. And I broke that down and I kind of took it and storyboarded it in a slightly more abstract way that I could understand it and put it into dance. And so we have these, you see these characters come on. I've labeled Christine as, in my piece, the person who portrays her is known as the traveler. And then you have the sister character who comes out and dances with her. And then you have her three guides that represent people in her life that have given her family and community. And at the end you see a celebration where I have these characters that they start off in the beginning and I call them my drifters, and then they turn into angels, right? So you have these people that kind of have to be a little bit, what is that, morphic and amoebic, just a little bit to kind of change, and that's a fun challenge for the dancers to have to go from like being a negative force to all of a sudden becoming a positive force, but that's like so much of life, right? So these dancers come into these angelic characters and they're celebrating the community she's found. So for me, I actually had to take her story and then turn it into a bit of a storyboard or a bit of a new narrative to fit within a 10-minute ballet, because how are you gonna fit 45, 50 years of life into 10 minutes. It's just not possible. So I had to highlight the things that I thought would speak really well on stage. She had mentioned in her interview wanting to highlight her life like Phoenix rising from the ashes. And I think that's something that I and others really can relate to. I feel like everybody has cycles and iterations of life that feel like death and rebirth. A lot of them carry weight and tragedy, but usually what comes out of those ashes is something more beautiful than we would have ever been gifted with before. She has a wonderful community with her family and with where she's living now, and I really wanted to highlight that and celebrate that at the end of my ballet, and I really hope you enjoy it.